Welcome back to part 3 on Outdoorising a smoke machine. In this part we are going to be going through the electronics as well as the Arduino code, and we'll let you see how it looks when it's all finished. Okay, so then my little shield, this goes on to the Arduino Uno, just like that. Okay, so this is the DMX Shield that I made up for this unit, and just as a little test, it's got a red and a green LED that you can PWM control if you want. It's got two switches that pull digital inputs to ground, and in the software the digital inputs have a pull-up enabled. Then over here is a MAX 485 or SN 75176 RS485 driver, little decoupling cap there, and then this is our DMX output, which just goes to a little 3-pin connector that's going to go straight on the board, and then this is another 3-pin connector. This is going to pick up our power basically from the smoke machine. So let's try put it in. Okay, so to make a bit of space for my Arduino Uno and my interface board, I removed that remote control receiver and I just replaced it with a plastic little lens, just to stop bugs from getting in. Okay. Okay, so all we need is a bit of double-sided tape. Hopefully in the right place, so that I can plug a USB cable in if I want to change the program, which of course I do want to. Okay, so that is the Uno in there, and I can still sort of plug my programming cable in. Okay, so this is my DMX out that I removed from the DMX in board. I just used the same cable, so it's nice. It's all going to be combined inside the machine. And I see I've started to unplug my shield there, but I'll sort that out now. And then plug that in there, which I've tested is a point where I get power, ground and another signal, but V is voltage, 5 volts, O is out I think, and G is ground or 0 volts. So that's where I'm getting my power to power my that's where I'm getting the power to power my Arduino. Okay, this other hole here is going to be for the light head to go in, which I'll show you as well shortly. Now, here's my programming port lineup. Yeah, it does, sort of. Yeah, I can just massage that into place there. Okay, so that's for me to upgrade the program. Okay, so here is the LED head here with this plastic piece stuck on. That's all nicely potted. I've extended the wires quite a lot, so this can go right on the top of the fitting. So that's just going to pop in there. And plug in there for now. So this wired remote out. Don't need that. And let's plug in power. See that we haven't broken anything. Okay, while that heats up, I'm just going to show you over here. Okay, the output of the heater block over there, I did grind it down a bit so I can fit another thin pipe over the heater block. That's going to go to the top of the fittings. So this will basically be in the base. With a nice copper tube going up, and then we'll have the LED block in the head. And this is the copper tube we're going to be using. It's, I believe it's 1/2 inch. Is it 1/2 or 1/4 inch from an air conditioning company? So this is going to go right on the end of that heater block, and as it sprays, it's going to spray up through the pipe. Okay, so now I'm going to take you through the code that I wrote for this. It did take a few iterations because I had a few mistakes and things like that. Okay, firstly, we've included the DMX serial.h library that gives us the hardware serial control to generate DMX out of the Arduino's TX pin, which then goes into the MAX 485 or SN75176 converter that converts it to the RS485 levels that DMX runs on. Okay, I did put switches and LEDs on my prototyping board or my variable board just as a debugging thing, although I didn't really use them, but I still got them specified in the code there. Fog duration is in milliseconds, how long the fog will run for, and light duration also milliseconds, how long the lights will be on for, because they run at different times. The fog and the light will start, I believe it starts at the same time, and then the light will run for a few more seconds after the fog gets finished. The warm-up delay is a 5-minute delay set there that makes sure that the machine is warmed up before it will start to try smoke and that. And also it makes the timing consistent. So we can make it so that it basically starts up every time at every hour from 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock and midnight. Okay, I've just cleared some integers and longs there for the timing. And then this is the DMX channel assignments of the fog machine itself. Channel 1 specifies the fog. It is a variable output, so if you specify 1, 2, 3 or whatever, up to 255, you're increasing your intensity on your fog motor. That is phase driven. Okay, int is the intensity, which is just basically an overall brightness. Color macro and strobe we don't use. And then red, green, and blue is our different channels for our 3 colors in the LED head. I have tried, this is my first time trying actually something to do a state machine type thing. So that might be right, might not be right, but that's why we got the state equals 0, because that's our initial startup state. Okay, now we're going into line 34 onwards, which is our setup section. This code only runs once when the machine starts up. Firstly, it sets our onboard testing LEDs as outputs. And the switch 1 and switch 2 it specifies as input pull up because they are tied to ground. So when you push the button, it actually pulls that input down. But like I say, we're not using the LEDs and the switches that much. Okay, then we initialize the DMX controller, a DMX serial system to start giving a DMX output. And we wait 500 milliseconds just as a safety, just for that to stabilize there. Okay, now we're writing out zeros basically to all our channels, so we don't want to fog. We want our light intensity to be 0, no color macro, no strobe, red, green, and blue, all 0. It's just nice to have a nice, gentle starting point. Okay, line 57 is our loop. So this loop runs continuously. Okay, as before we specified state equals 0, so this is our startup state. Okay, now we're setting up the warm-up start point to milliseconds. And then we do that whole funny little while thing. And during that time, while it's waiting for basically 5 minutes to pass, it's just basically blinking the Arduino's onboard LED on and off, just so you can see that it is doing something. After that delay, it then goes and specifies on line 66, state is 1. It then gets out of that if. Then the next if statement, if state equals 1, which is what we've got into now, it says turn on the LEDs before fogging. This happens just before the fogging starts. So we declare the intensity channel as 255 for full brightness, and the LED is just 128, which is about half brightness or medium intensity. And we wait a second, and then we change our state to 2, and we get out of that if statement. Then our next state, state number 2, it records a starting time for the fogging, and it sets fog flag 1, and it goes and sends an output to DMX serial telling it the fog channel must be at full blast. It then says, okay, what time are we starting the lighting effect? This is just for the timers later. It puts a flag to say we want to turn the lights on, and it turns on the built-in LED on the Arduino just as a test. Changes state to 3. Okay, state 3, the fog is running, so now we want to do some light effects. During this state 3, it's just generating random values for the intensity of the red, green, and blue. Now, what I didn't like is the blue was too intense on the original one, so I made it only 10. So the blue LED would be a very dim, random but dim. Then the green LED, it was also looking too green. You don't actually get a green fire. It's supposed to look yellowish and red, so I just played around with it. If the green is higher than 32 less than the red value, then the green value goes to 0. So just ideally it looks like you got red and you got yellow, not actually green. Then once it's generated those 3 random values and done that calculation there, it goes and it sends the outputs to all the 3 channels. Waits a random delay multiplied by 100 milliseconds just to give it that flame type effect, and then changes to state number 4. Now we must check the timers in state number 4 to see if it's time to stop the fogging pump or to stop the lights. So if you look there, if milliseconds, the current milliseconds, minus the starting fog time is greater than the duration that we've set in the beginning, and the flag is 1 to say that we are busy fogging, then we must change to state 5 to say we must stop the fog. Also the same type of thing with the lighting. We must switch to stage number 6 if the lighting time is expired so we can stop the lighting. Or if basically the lighting and the fog is finished, then we got 0 for the fog flag and 0 for the light flag, which means we can just wait one forever, because the machine will actually switch off based on the electrical timer, and then it'll switch back on the next hour just before the 5-minute duration when it's supposed to warm up and then fire again. Okay, so if you can see, if you look there at state number 5, stop the fogger, turns off the fog flag, writes 0 to the DMX channel, and then changes back to state 4, which goes back to the timers check. Okay, if the timers, something I didn't mention, if the timers check doesn't have anything else to do, it goes back to state number 3, which is just to keep the lighting effect going and changing and things like that. Okay, let's go to state number 6 now. If it's state number 6, you must stop the lights by turning light flag to 0, zeroing out all those channels, turning off the built-in LED, and then it changes to state 4. If we go back to state 4, it's going to look, it's going to see, oh, fog flag's off, light flag is off or low. So basically just hang around until you switch off, and then the power cycle will get it to start from the beginning again. Okay, so this is the fitting now that we've modified it and put the fog unit in, the smoke unit. Let's open up the box. And we've got our smoke machine there. And we've got our timer and our fluid down the bottom there. So let's start it up, give it its 5 minutes warm up, and then see what happens. And as you can see, it's very windy today. But you can barely see that the LEDs are working there. Then the LEDs turn off now. And of course we have to come out at night and see how it looks. So this is what it looks like from 2 different angles on the first night. There you go.
Okay. Yay! It's like a steamboat. Is that how they make steamboats? That even without the colors? Like fake steamboats.
Yeah, the same principle.
And that one, nice. I can actually smell the smoke.
See there, Jenny?
Yeah.
And the protection service probably thinks the light's on fire. Okay.
Lights on fire.
So thank you for joining me with this little project that's had a few firsts for me. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And also, I'd encourage you, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon. That way you'll know when I release new videos. I hope you learned something. I definitely learned something. I hope it's encouraged you to try out on your own medium-ish or largest type projects depending on your skill level. And don't be afraid. Just carry on and carry on. Thank you for joining us.